The Trump classified document scandal taking a new turn. The National Archives revealing some records from Trump White House are still missing. That does not mean that Trump himself took them, but the feds did find hundreds of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And today, newly revealed audio of Trump. In an interview with the New York Times' Maggie Haberman, he admits he took some documents, like letters to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, and then appeared to walk it back.
Did you leave the White House with anything in particular? Are there any memento documents you took with you? Anything of note?
Nothing of great urgency. No.
Okay.
I have great things there. The letters, the Kim Jong-un letters, and many of them.
You were able to take those with you?
Look at what's happening.
Wow.
No, I think that's in the archives, but most of it is in the archives.
Okay.
Quote, nothing of great urgency is what Donald Trump says, but the National Archives today confirming in newly released emails to Trump's lawyers that they did not have the Kim Jong-un letters. And as the DOJ investigates, Trump is trying to once again delay the special master appeal. Now, the DOJ asked to expedite the ruling on the balance of the seized documents. Trump's lawyers objecting in the filing, writing, quote, Trump will be prejudiced if this appeal is expedited. Now, it's unclear how Trump would be prejudiced for a ruling to come sooner rather than later, but this is the Trump playbook: delay, delay, delay. Joining me now is former acting United States Solicitor General Neal Katyal. Neal, my friend, good to see you. I mean, what do you think are Trump's chances to get the 11th Circuit to reject the DOJ's request for an expedited appeal? The DOJ has already ruled on the classified documents portion of Judge Cannon's order. So it's the balance of that order appointing the special master that the DOJ wants to have heard on an expedited basis.
So first of all, thanks for having me. And I know I won't be on your segment talking about Justice Jackson's first day, but since I did argue there today in front of her and her 8 colleagues, I just wanted to say what a thrill it was to be there. She and the other justices were super engaged. After 3 years of not being fully in person, it was just thrilling and exciting, and what a historic appointment. Now, from the sublime to the ridiculous, your question. Yes, Trump has decided to try and resist the Justice Department's attempt to expedite the appeal of the special master. This isn't really the main game anymore, because the most serious documents, Trump already tried to, argue to the Court of Appeals that the Justice Department should be forbidden to look at them and use them in its criminal and national security investigation, and already lost that before a bunch of Trump-appointed judges. So, that's going nowhere. Now they're saying for the rest of the documents, Trump is saying, go it slow. And it's not surprising to me that Trump is resisting. Delay is the name of his game. And they know the prospects before the Court of Appeals are quite weak. So they're just trying to buy as much time as they can. I don't think that they're likely to get much time. And I think it's not going to matter. Their appeal is a dead loser every day of the week. I mean, they claim executive privilege. Trump's claim to executive privilege is as baseless as his claim that he won the 2020 election.
So, Neal, to that point of Trump wanting to ask for more time, they've actually asked to push that special master appeal hearing until January of 2023. Is there something special about January, or do you think it's just an arbitrary date that was selected by Trump's legal team in order to delay?
Well, I think they want as much time as possible. There is a theory floating around that if the Republicans take the House, that they could try and shut down the government over this investigation and say, we're not going to fund the Justice Department. And, they could threaten a complete shutdown. The party seems so, unfortunately, in the pocket of Donald Trump. That is a possibility, but it is a tough one. I mean, to shut down the government over this, particularly when all the indicia are Donald Trump committed not just a crime, but a really serious federal felony, and then lied about it afterwards, or at least sent his attorneys out there to lie. And it's looking very bad for him.
We mentioned in the intro that the National Archives are claiming that they're still missing documents from the Trump administration. Legally, Neal, what can be done to get them back other than launch maybe yet another DOJ investigation into missing documents?
Well, I do think it is a Justice Department investigation. I think that's really the ball game. But I think we should take that story about the National Archives correspondence together with that audio clip that you played today from Maggie Haberman's interview with Donald Trump, because the truth is the biggest threat to Donald Trump is Donald Trump's own mouth. He has terrible impulse control. He has an inability to stay away from the press. And that just gives the Justice Department new and incriminating evidence against him. I mean, here, this audio clip is the kind of thing prosecutors dream about. In like 30 seconds, he says, one, I took the documents, and two, then he backtracks on his claim, demonstrating that he knows he shouldn't have, kept the documents from the National Archives.
Neil, and that Maggie Haberman audio that we just played that you're referencing, interviewing Trump about the documents from a legal standpoint, because there's obviously been some chatter on social media about this, right? The fact that these things are not revealed until years later after they have occurred, from a legal standpoint, do they have an impact in terms of that delayed disclosure on prosecutions of Donald Trump?
No, I don't think it has an impact on the delay. I think, evidence is evidence, and, you can try and impeach its credibility by being older or something like that, but I don't think it undermines the basic case. To be a crime, you have to have a bad mens rea, a bad criminal intent, and a bad act, an actus reus. And this audio tape is evidence of both, that he, took some documents and that he had some sort of bad intent about doing so. And the letter from the archives, which I think is more than a year old, demonstrates that Trump was on notice about all of this missing material, and yet he still sent his attorneys out after Mar-a-Lago was searched saying, oh, everything is returned. It's really, really a problem.
Neil Katyal, I'm so glad that you actually got to be there for the very first oral arguments for Ketanji Brown Jackson. Another quill, right? Another feather to put in your very large container of that. Neil Katyal, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6th on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.